let me quickly introduce our instructor for tonight. I have the pleasure to introduce to us all a researcher of no less than 2 decades cumulative experience in teaching, research, and extension services. He holds a PhD in food science and technology from the University of Pretoria in South Africa. His area of specialization is starch characterization and application technology. He is an academic project coordinator, author, and curriculum development expert. He's passionate about science and society and conversion of regular academic training to entrepreneurial initiatives. He has published articles in different journals. He has co-authored different books in the area of food science and technology. He is a member of International Union of Food Science and Technology, IUFOST, Education Committee on Undergraduate Curricula, Approval Processes, and Global Recognition. He served in 2020 to 2023. He is an executive director of African Food Research Network. He was a 3-time governing council member of Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology, NIFST. He has served as National Secretary, Assistant National Secretary, and National Publicity Secretary between the year 2011 and 2020, respectively. He's a certified professional scientist by South African Council for Natural Science Prevention, a trained food safety management implementer from BSI, United Kingdom. In other climb, he is passionate about strategy, innovation, and performance management. He's a certified KPI professional from the KPI Institute, Australia. He leads the team to KitsoServe, South African PTAY, a food science company based in South Africa. He is a member of many other professional bodies, notably South African Association of Food Science and Tech, SAFOST, and International Food Safety and Quality Network, USA. He is an advocate of service to humanity. He is a volunteer to concerning consumer advocacy on food safety and nutrition initiatives. He is a mentor at the Tony Elumelu Foundation and the Faith Foundation for Young Entrepreneurs. He is a JCI senator. JCI is a worldwide federation of active citizens advancing positive change in their community. I have the pleasure this evening to introduce to the House Dr. Adedola Adeboye. You're welcome, sir. A round of applause for our instructor.
Thank you very much, my dear friend, Shadrach, Prince Adewale Shadrach Adeboye. This is a special occasion. It's just not a session. It's your birthday, and so I joined the whole world in congratulating you on this milestone. I know that the reason why you are late to this meeting is also because you are receiving greetings. So I wouldn't want to abuse that.
Yes, I guess
we'll celebrate after. We'll celebrate afterwards. We have kept people waiting. So let's just get into it. Yeah. Okay. Let me say greetings of the day to the audience wherever you are joining us from, and I stand on the existing protocol and introduction that have been made. I want to first apologize. Is the apology the right word? Okay, let me just state it clearly that the title you are saying before you may appear different from what was advertised in the flyer, but it's the same thing really. I just didn't want to bore you with so many words when we can capture it in just four words as we are saying it here. Yeah, social engineering is what we want to talk about basically in food safety management systems, and so we want to talk less of the science, the science, the theory, the microbiology, the principles, but we want to talk about a layer that is usually taken for granted, but yet the most important and the driver of food safety management initiative, And so I thought I should put together a familiar picture, familiar stuff that we are used to either in the industry or the food safety terms, as my landing page. With that, I welcome you into this presentation. I thought of where best to start from. I just thought, okay, we could start from, the best way to start from is to start from the familiar, then we'll now move to the seemingly not familiar phase of food safety management system. And the familiar one being that those 7 principles that underpin food safety management, or the 7 principles by which we deploy food safety management system. Let me adjust my view. Give me a moment. I want to adjust my view so that Shedrack face will not be disturbing what I'm saying here. Okay, all right, good. All right, the first principle, second principle, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we are seeing here, I want us to relate to it, and I would like it to be participatory. I want to ask a question. Which of these will not require human being to deploy? I want the answer in the chat, please. Which of it will not require human being to deploy? Please, I wish that it is interactive. Yeah, please. Because if it's just me talking, we may not enjoy it. This is taking us. Oh, good. I think I got the answer from our mentor first, and I'm not surprised that it was quick to. It was the one that got it first. None actually. All of what we are seeing here needs the human element, and so that means the human element is very, very important. As a matter of fact, the most important, if it's going to be the one to drive, But most often than not, the training that we goes to, the training that organizations sponsor people to sponsor their personnel to attend, are usually the science-based, the standard-based kind of training. Whereas those who are going to carry out, who are going to deploy the compliance, the system, and we are going to act on the structure, they sometimes lack the requisite training, and they sometimes lack the requisite management, style to be able to deploy adequately. And so this session hopes to drive home some points with regards to that gap, and now put in front of business owners to start seeing the reason to consider sending people to this kind of training. All right, and this kind of training, in a nutshell, it's about social engineering, which is playing around the psychology of people and manipulating their mindset, the mindset of the personnel that are involved in food safety management implementation. Especially now, we are not dealing with the know-how, with the knowledge, or with the theory. We are dealing with the implementation, and so we are saying that there's a layer of importance that people, managers often disregard, which is manipulating the mindset of those that are going to carry out or implement the food safety principles. So some dictionary describe it as the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change. It means that knowing is not enough. We need to. There may be need to change the orientation of that personnel. Maybe after employing that personnel, we need to change whatever orientation that is bringing, he or she is bringing in, to the kind of orientation that we want to have in the sensitivity that is attached to the processing unit or a particular processing system. And so these we go on, and there may be need to regulate, the future development and behavior of that micro society, because in an industry where you in a factory where you meet almost every day, it becomes a society on its own, and we must take it like that. So we social engineering in factory, in food processing or production system means that you take the production environment as a society, wherein you want a kind of norms, kind of value, which in turn we call culture, begins to develop. And this reflects on the quality of the food safety implementation that you have in place. And the owner of the company or the management team can then go and sleep with the assurance that, okay, the food management, food safety management system is airtight. And we'll go a bit about in details gradually now. But first, I thought probably we should agree on what defines a food safety culture, and I try to look at the global perspective to this. And so I found useful the definition of the Global Food Safety Initiative, in this regard. And what's that? And that is that food safety culture is referred to as shared values, beliefs, norms that affect the mindset and behavior towards food safety, in and across and throughout an organization. Means that different departments, not necessarily those that are directly connected or in contact with the food, while it's passing from one processing unit to the other processing unit, even up to packaging and all that. Those that have nothing to do with production at all, also they are involved in food safety. And we'll get to that later, how it concerns them. And so why that food safety culture also needs to extend to them, So it's more or less a way of living, let's put it that way. And so anyone who is not ready to imbibe that way of living, we need to excuse such person. But first, we must try to re-engineer the mindset of the person, so that we'll be sure that we have done due diligence, and those that are not ready to align with the system, we'll move them out. All right. I thought it would be good again to break it down. This is going to be a short presentation, but more of the interaction we are going to have. So I thought we should break it down a bit, that the ingredients of what we are, the subject matter of today, which is the food safety culture in essence. Okay, this ingredient, I feel that we must look at it from an holistic point of view, because the subject matter concerns the least important person to the most important person in the organization, but they are connected in different ways. That's what we want to try and decompose now. So first, we look at the first ingredient. Just like anyone setting out a food industry, you have a target set of consumer. You have a target level of standard that you need to comply with. So to meet that compliance level, one, you must set goal. Then to meet your own brand level, because there is a minimum standard, but an organization that intends to sustain itself and that intends to engage in the competition that is out there must set his or her standard beyond the minimum. And so goals of different food companies may differ, so your own goal must be clear. The mission statement, the price that you place on the value of food safety, the purpose why you place that value, it must be clearly stated, and it needs to be available to everybody, not only those that are directly concerned with the production. It must be in the gatehouse. It must be in the toilet. It must be everywhere where the staff have contact with or passes, so that it continues to have that footprint and imprint in their psyche, that okay, that will manage their behavior, what they can do, why their supervisor is not there, what they won't do, even why no one is looking at them. So that goal setting is important, so that everybody will know the how far we are going and how what is needed to go there. So in terms of expectation, you must also be clear about what is needed to get there and what you expect from each individual in that regard. leadership is important if you want to communicate this very well. So this leadership is connected to who does what, and we are going to get to that later. So the next one you want to look at is the strongest part of this whole process, the strongest element, so to speak, the people. And because this is more or less what we are talking about today, that how important are the people in food safety management implementation. The people, it's very important, and it's very important that we recognize the different components when we talk about the people. We need to identify the stakeholders, the governance that is required. It's because it's people that are going to deploy the governance, the communication, it's people that are going to communicate, the training, it's people that are involved in the training, and the reward system still, talk about the people. We'll get to decompose all of them further, and we will talk to them in more detail next. But I just wanted to show some connection before we go into that. The next ingredient of food safety culture will be awareness. What you can blame me for what I'm not aware of. And so don't expect. Make sure that you communicate the risk and hazard attached to different processing units, attached to different section and of the company, and how they connect with food safety standard that you are trying to aim at, or that you are aiming at rather. And so the employee must be aware of this, and so you need to engage them. Don't think that it's only those that are directly concerned with food safety that need to be aware of this, and so because there may be cross-contamination inadvertently if this is not communicated adequately and periodically. Then you need to also verify the system by which you make this awareness known. So I'll give an instance that has nothing to do with food safety, but it's just to draw a point that in some building, especially in developed part of the world, there are some safety standards that you see them do. And if you are not from a country that you are used to such culture, you will look at it like it's a waste of time. It has happened to me before where I was busy with an experiment and there was an alarm, and the alarm kept telling us, vacate the building. And so vacate the building, and when you vacate the building, you are already directed to the convergence spot where all of you are supposed to converge, which is like a safe zone. I reluctantly, I was carrying my bag, my everything and the people that I met, they were telling me that, no, leave all that, leave all that, just first vacate the building is the instruction. So when we were outside, what happened is it's part of the process, verification process, to see whether the device that is supposed to verify whether the people are compliant is working or not. So I didn't get the importance of that until later, when it really now happened and it was necessary. And nobody could predict that when it's going to happen. And most often than not, if this is not done, personnel they are human beings. They have this tendency to take things for granted, something that we do every day, so nothing new can happen. It has happened before. But alas, nobody predicted, for instance, COVID-19, but it happened. And we all saw the consequences and how it made us unaware. So awareness is important, and verification of that awareness is also as important. Then the brain works with adaptability. If it's consistently bombarded, maybe for the lack of for a better word rather, I use to inspire it. When you inspire food safety expectation and milestones, it tends to have an imprint in the brain that, okay, if at Monday meetings you let the team know that, oh, we are doing fantastic, we have met our milestone in terms of food safety, in terms of the level of the R&D department has informed us that the residual level of aflatoxin in our product, I'm just using that as an example, is far below the standard, the minimum standard speculated, minimum standard required for compliance and all that. And so we are doing fine, but we can do better. That tends to inspire the team to say, okay, that whatever it is that we are doing, okay, we are doing well, but we can improve upon it. And that seems to make them to be agile, that, okay, we can't drop from this standard that we have been able to reach, because the leadership communicate the milestone that they have reached up to them and inspire them further. When this is done, on periodic and consistent basis, they tend to adapt to that as best practice, without being pushed or without being watched. I know that these days many factories now have cameras to see if personnel are doing what they are supposed to be doing. But even at that, personnel it's not everywhere that you will put a camera, but it's rather cheaper to inspire that adaptability in style by playing with their mindset, so that they will do it even with or without a camera or being supervised. And then need may arise that you need to change a particular structure. We'll get to difference between system and structure later. The food safety management system is embedded in structure. You are going to need physical equipment, to deploy your food safety management system. Sometimes you may need to change an equipment, maybe on cost, maybe because of cost, or maybe because of the cleanliness of the ease of cleaning of an equipment. You may want to change to a particular type, and deploying food safety management system in that other equipment may require a change in activities. And so you want to meet the prerequisites that is stated for that particular critical control point, but yet you still want to achieve the whatever it is that the food safety goal that you want to achieve there. So you need a change management series to happen. And so you don't take it for granted that kind of change management training is important at that point, because if you take it for granted, the results may be far-reaching. So it's important that at that point, even if you rely on the personnel that, he knows, he has been doing that before, but this is a different equipment. You need an expert in that equipment to come and train that person and identify the critical points that are important with regards to that equipment. And that person can train other people that are coming behind, and can train other personnel that are in other shifts. So far, anybody that will come into contact with that equipment. So this is important. And crisis too can happen. You must be able to manage your crisis without losing the goal of your food safety management system. That's essentially the one that involves people. Crisis that may happen may not be scientific. It may just be rift between two people that are involved in shifts back to back. As that may appear remote to your job description as a team leader or as a supervisor, it is important for you to see it from the point of view or the point of impact on the success of the food safety management implementation. That, okay, their rifts may make one of them to jettison the process. Not necessarily that he or she would do bad thing, but maybe something that is supposed to observe, in team spirit. He may not observe it for the other person because they are not in talking terms, or they have rifts. But at the end of the day, who is losing is the company that may lose if that product gets out there because of their rift. So you must learn some crisis management. You must have some crisis management competencies rather. All right. So consistency is what we more or less the bedrock of quality assurance. If your quality assurance is tight, it means that there has been consistency in the food safety management system and other food quality management system which are on board. And so how do we achieve this? It's about accountability, being able to measure your performance and track it, and also documentation, so that And when you want to ask people, you don't ask questions. You ask the document that they have submitted, and make sure that it is the book that you speak to before you speak to the individual. And so that way the individual already know by which way you are going to measure his or her stewardship, whether is right, he or she is right, or he or she is wrong. And so by that, you're already making him align with the system without necessarily forcing him or her. But most often than not, if you just ask, Kunle, okay, so have you taken the temperature? Okay, so what was the temperature? And Kunle says, yeah, 20. In actual fact, maybe he has not taken it. And there are some hazard that if that is taken for granted, the multiplying effect might be far-reaching. And unfortunately, if this batch gets into another batch, if there is cross-contamination, you can best imagine what will happen. So rather than that, make sure that team members are stick to that style of speaking to documents before asking individual. That will ensure consistency. Okay, now we thought that's more or less like what I'm able to decipher from the Global Food Safety Initiative description of food safety culture. And so, but I see two very important segments here among these ingredients that connect to each other, and that is the people and the consistency. If there is a compromise by the people, there won't be consistency. And so I will want to stress on the people and consistency in the next 2 slides, as I close. So by this I mean the social engineering between the people, that produces the awareness, and we adapt their behavior into the system, which now give consistency. More or less is what I describe as the social engineering in the food safety management implementation. So, and now how do I mean in detail? So taking a closer look at people. First, what I think we need to do is to identify stakeholders, and these stakeholders are the influencers, the leaders, those that will do the legwork, the people that we use in the factory, maybe the technician, even as long as the laborers or the casual workers. They are as important as every other person. They are as important as the group managing director, in terms of the outcome and the desired state of evolution that the company wants to get into in terms of the brand loyalty of their product, in terms when you talk about the safety of their food. There are some brands that you won't even, sometimes you will take it before you check the expiry date. That is also wrong. We'll also get to that. You don't rely on brands, if you want to have, if you want to be consistent, and if you want to communicate that consistent to your end user, your consumer, your distributors, they also need to be in that social engineering that you're trying to put forward. We'll get to that shortly. So even the clients and the suppliers, they are stakeholders in your food safety management implementation, and there's an orientation you need to also give them so that they won't compromise your food safety chain at any point in time, because you may have produced a very safe food. Bad post-production handling may compromise it. And when the end user takes it, it is the name of the product that they will be shouting. It is the brand that will have issues with them. And some consumers don't come to you. They use word of mouth to discourage others from taking your product. And so you start thinking about the economics of the implication if you don't factor them into your social engineering. So when you call stakeholder, when you do some periodic stakeholder engagements, don't just talk to your team members or your personnel alone. Lend a hand of comradeship, more or less, to also the suppliers and the clients, maybe that deal with the suppliers and the wholesalers. Make sure that everybody that is in that chain before it gets to the end user is factored in as stakeholders. Identify influencers among them. Some people are good at influencing others in taking an action. Okay, I give an example. When you see some distributors, some distributors are giving some kind of maybe a rating that shows that they are senior distributors, they are senior wholesalers. The brand must have identified them as that they are influencers. They are able to influence other wholesalers or distributors of their product into global good for their product. And so they identify them, they pick them, like they give them stuff, they incentivize so that they can influence others. So if there is any need to influence others in order to store your product very well, so that the food safety goal that you have achieved will not be compromised at some point, please do it. Identify those people. Also within the industry, within your team, identify those that have the skill set to influence others. Place them appropriately in the right place in the food safety implementation chain. And that way you will do less repeatedly once you identify influencers, because they will consistently influence others. And be due diligence in management of the relationship between the influencers and the other team members. Another one is the behavior. You need to filter for food safety, for the purpose of food safety. You need to filter the behavior. You should know your staff very well, and so you need to filter their behavior, that this person that exhibits this kind of tendency shouldn't be placed in this sensitive position. Then this goes to what you look out for when you are even interviewing people. It's not all the time that you look at. I know that being an A student, being first class student, distinction student is good, but when you are looking for staff for some sensitive post, especially the one that has to do with food safety, please filter behavior. Let behavior be what you are going to test. There are simple ways by which you can test for such, and know the people that pay attention to details. Sieve them out from those that don't pay attention to details. You will need more of people that pay attention to details across the food safety management implementation chain. So we are saying that even if you have lots of members in your team, you need to disaggregate skill sets, and empower member component to deliver results. If someone has a skill set, but it doesn't have, for instance, the person need a laptop to function very well in that area. You can empower the person, as with a laptop, just to encourage him or her to be able to deliver which you want, because he will be able to do well, having that laptop enhance him or her to deliver. I just cited that as example. Common goal governance. There are different departments in an industry. The food industry is not an exception. The onus lies on the leadership, either from the managing director to the operations manager, all of that, to do what we call common goal governance. All of us are aiming at a common goal, but each of the departments have different roles to play. So the leader must know how to manage the different department and the different segment to that common goal, and that has to do with how you relate with their psyche. Common to as little as attending a gate man's child naming ceremony, may make him not to compromise on food safety. If you are deliberate about such discussion at such event, he will look at you like you value him to have even attend his own modest party, and if at that party you just test his knowledge about, or his commitment about the food safety goal, or even test his knowledge about awareness, and there you try to correct, and that kind of correction stays almost forever, because it comes from a point of sense of belonging, and you warm to the person's heart by identifying with them at their family level and all of that, and that goes a long way in rearranging the psyche of that person. to what you want. Then communicate differently. The way I'm going to communicate to an agbero, forgive me using that word, to do a particular thing is different from the way I will communicate with my colleague. The way I'm going to communicate to the driver that brought an ingredient to a raw material to our factory, especially if that communication has to do with food safety, for him to understand so that next time he doesn't do that again. It's different from the way I will communicate with my colleague who is supposed to receive it, the goods, even though it's the same thing I want to arrive at, and we must learn this so that, the message is not missed because of miscommunication. Put that way. Yeah, we need to train and retrain and adapt people to the levels that we want. And if there is new product, there will be the different kind of food safety plan that we are going to put. People shouldn't assume that it's not today that we do this thing. But if it's a different product, it means that the hazard are likely to be different and the critical points are likely to be different. So we must train people and retrain them for specific purposes and ensure that they are aware of the differences, and they're committed to, making steps that are important in their brain to make sure that, they are aware and they are committed to it. All right. So the last one will now be that after all of this, everybody it works with the postulation of this postulation of my friend recently in his book on psychology, which is theory of beneficial advantage. Everybody, whatever we do is driven by a motive. Either you go to school, it's for a motive. You marry someone, it's for a motive. You set up your company, it's for a motive. You act, it's for a motive. So if we incentivize action, it goes on. It happens more consistently, and people are driven, more to want to do more. So we are suggesting that we build a culture of incentivizing commitment. When you see a staff that is committed to food safety implementation, you try to reward so that will encourage the others to also fall in line. What we want to achieve at the end of the day is the goal anyway. And so putting a reward system here and there doesn't kill anybody, but rather it adds value. So taking a closer look at what we mean by consistency, I thought of using this rate track as an example to drive home my point. You see the rate track. Normal rate track 5, 6, 7 may be coming from different places, and the way the track are built and designed, you see them at the end of the day, they end up in one location. I'm saying there may be 5 tracks and all of that, but you see all of them connect one way or the other, and they have time by which they arrive and leave. They don't meet each other. There is no collision except for situations that have been compromised at some point. But if everything works, as they are supposed to work, the train that is coming from east will not meet the one that is coming from west, and they all get to that same destination, this spot. So it is with our food management systems and structure and implementation. If there is accountability, it will always be traceable. Yeah, and then if they are traceable, then we can manage the performance of the people and with the system. So the documentation will assist us in knowing where the fault was, who compromised at some point, and what is needed to be done. So nobody will want himself or herself to be in the book of the list of those that compromise food safety in management implementation, and so, but if there is no documentation there that there is a document and it's communicated to them that this is what you should do, and this is the reason why you should do it, it won't be able to track. Then the food safety management implementation may not be consistent. So, but if we put a system there and you drive people with the needed psychology, they will be able to be accountable you can track performance, because it is book that you speak to before you now tell them what they did wrong, what was the wider implication, and what's the cost implication to the company, and why they shouldn't do that again. In fact, it is not out of order to reprimand them, either financially, or whether to deduct their money, because if there's a reward system for those that are committed, there should always be a little punishment for those that fall out of line. And so it is important to do that. So in doing that, you need to learn how to take decisions. You need to learn how to take decisions without hurting people. And what we will need to use are the influencers. The influencers are the people that will influence others to do what is right, and also to reprimand them before they cause something that is costly. And so such influencers should be leaders. It should be made to lead the team and different points in the food safety management chain. So such influencers should also be aware of the metrics to look out for. What is it that we are going to be measuring, without necessarily talking to the person, without necessarily talking to the implementer of that particular food safety plan or exercise. Have your metrics with you and measure it, and then you may make it available to the person later to say that you check this thing only 5 times. That already compromised the food safety management implementation plan, and that is the management frowns at that because of this, because of that. And so please don't let me have to warn you again. That already reset the brain of that person that, even though the camera is not looking at me, but because these metrics are being taken and a decision is going to be taken based on these metrics that are taken, I need to see try. So he will see it as a way of life straight away, that we take this in 5 times a day or 5 times a week, and I must do it that way as a way of life. Yeah. So who does what is also important. I think I don't have to stress this, because if you don't know who does what, you won't be able to know who to address, And so if the team knows that I am going to be asked if I didn't do what I'm supposed to be, what is supposed to be done in my shift, I'm going to be the one that will be asked. And documentation of who does what is very important. And that's why you see roster all the time in food factory. But those that compromise in roster, they fall into the negative consequence of such things. So roster is very important, and communicate. These days that we're in the digital world, everybody can receive their roster on their WhatsApp or on their email, for those companies that imbibe the idea of emails, so that you don't waste paper and then continue to contribute to littering the environment, All right, so nothing should be taken for granted, Do not rely on personal experience. It is very, very, very easy to rely on personal experience. No, what they've been doing it for like 30. I mean, he's been doing it for like 30 years. He or she's been doing it for 30 years. Oh, that team has been there for like, so they know what they're doing. No, because the day that something wrong would present itself, you wouldn't know. And so let us rather rely on the system and make sure that the personnel rather rely on the system, no matter how young you are in the process, no matter how new you are in the company. The leaders or influencers must ensure that this is communicated to a staff that is just being employed. That if your work is to ask questions, don't look at the personnel, ask questions. If it's documentation, no matter who is involved, don't assume the person have done it. Ask if the person have done it and note whatever the answer is down, or check whatever the answer is what you are supposed to do, not how important the personnel is. It's very important not to consider personnel in taking action. Yeah, I've said this, that we should define metrics from simple to complex. That way people will know, how their performance is going to be measured and what will be written down. So naturally they will fall in line. Then the auditing the performance is important, not by the people, but by the documents, and so nobody wants something to be written down against him or written down and they now said is the one that handles that shift, But in places where documentation is not taken as important, it's going to be his word against yours, and that way that may compromise the implementation or the goal that you're trying to achieve. Documentation already said it's important. So, in summary, this is the last slide. And in summary, I would like to just leave us with the fact that with what I've said earlier, in case you met us in the middle of the presentation, what we're saying is that managing the human element of food safety management implementation plan requires that you put a system in place. Put a system in place. Where there is no system, it is difficult for people to even know what to do. They may read it in training, they may have the prerequisite document, to make sure to follow in the implementation, but the system must be in place and must be communicated to them of how we do things here. All right. Then set up an influence framework. The influencers, identify the influencers in your team. They may not necessarily be the head of that team exactly, but identify the influencers and know how best to use them to achieve the food safety goal that you're trying to have. Then it is important that you have a structure, because it is on the structure that you're going to place the system. When we talk of the structure, we're talking about the type of equipment, the way they are arranged, the layout, and all of that. Make sure that it doesn't compromise human elements in deploying the food safety management system, because they must work hand in hand. People must be able to use the system on the structure that is in place. And so that way they won't have reason to compromise. And the skill is important. You need to keep training and retraining people, consistently and as needed. And they're doing all of this. You must remember that it is the people, their mindset is what actually drive food safety management implementation. And so when you put all of this in place, please remember to measure and track the relationship between the people. They are consistent with the system and the structure. Thank you very much. That's what I have for us this evening. I hope I've been able to get something across. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.